Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you today from someone's Harry Potter fanfiction. My name is Martin O'Dwyer, and I'll be your host for this episode. And joining me, as always, is your host, Connor O'Brien. How are we doing today, Connor?
Ouch! Really coming out swinging there, Martin. Guns ablazing right out the door.
That's me. That's me warm. I've problems with this book. We'll get into it.
We'll get into it.
That was mostly for the meme. I'll be honest. But yeah, no, we do. But yeah, we're in case you haven't guessed, we are going to talk about Strixhaven today because it's the most recently released D&D book. It's also another one of the Magic the Gathering crossovers, which in the past have been pretty interesting. I'm a big fan of Theros in particular. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it.
You're a big Theros fanboy because you like some ancient Greece.
yes, I do. I also like Ravnica though. Ravnica was a magic.
I dig Ravnica is not a setting I would play in, but the book has some really cool monster stat blocks and magic items and stuff like that. So I love it.
I actually used the Sky Swimmer in a combat recently, and it was really fun. But yeah, how's the crack, Connor? Any news? Anything fun going on before we actually get into the book? Because I'm trying to fill this with as much positivity as I can before I let the negative out.
As I just mentioned before starting the podcast, I went and saw Dirty Dancing the musical in Killarney over the past couple of days. Really enjoyed it. I was having the time of my life. Do you know what? It's one of those things where like I enjoy musicals anyway, and this was a nice one to go see, particularly being I only saw the movie for the first time in the past couple of years. My sister's a big fan. I never just sat down and watched it. I know loads of bits and I knew all the quotes, like nobody puts baby in the corner and all that kind of stuff. But I never actually made the effort to sit down and watch it. So I did it with Tara like last year, and I really enjoyed it. And the musical is like beat for beat the movie, in such a way that like they were doing quick changes between scenes. Because normally in a musical, you'll do like someone will come out, they'll have a bit of talking and there's a bit of a scene, followed then by a musical number of some kind, and then the stage goes dark and they kind of reset for the next scene. There was very little of that. They were resetting while people were still talking, and they would just run one scene into the other. And whatever way the stage was laid out, the curtains on either side that were open, further on you could see the lights that were shining kind of through or beyond the side curtains and casting shadows out onto the side of the theater. So you could see when someone runs off stage, you could see them like very quickly taking off their clothes and putting on something else and stuff like that, or like throwing, like literally the lights would change and some characters would like take off a jacket, throw it this way, reach that way, catch another jacket, put it on, and then a whole new scene, which I actually thought was really, really impressive. And then what else am I doing? I finished Arcane, as I told you, I think last week. You'll never guess what I'm watching now.
I don't know why I want to say it, but Gilmore Girls?
Well, do you know what? That's a fairly safe bet, seeing as at one point or another, Tara is almost certainly playing Gilmore Girls in the background on Netflix. I've seen that show straight through, maybe more times than a lot of other shows. I've seen that show like a good 5 or 6 times right through. No, I'm watching West Wing at the moment.
Ah, okay, cool. I've heard good things, but I'm not super into like political drama, so never really.
It's interesting. It would be my go-to. The only reason we're watching it is because I found a few clips online of The Newsroom, which is also written by Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
Aaron Sorkin. And I thought that looked really good. And then Tara won't let me watch The Newsroom until I've watched West Wing. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're going back to 1999.
Ooh.
It's interesting because I'm watching it. But like this is a pre 9/11 setting, which is bizarre. It's almost unthinkable to me that the world doesn't think a very specific way about terrorism and threats against their countries and stuff like that. So I'm watching West Wing. I'm actually quite enjoying it. It's really good. It's really clever in how it's written, and the characters are really it's not the kind of show you could just have on the background, because conversations run into each other. And like one person's walking down in the corridor, two people are walking down, and then one person will say, just file off, and at the next doorway someone else will file in, and then they just run it straight into a new conversation. So if you're not paying attention, you will miss some stuff. But it's good. I'm enjoying it. I think we're going to do a little bit of that. I'm waiting for Hawkeye to finish. The Witcher is coming out this week, as is Spider-Man.
Yes. Hawkeye.
Actually, at the time this podcast airs, The Witcher will be out.
Oh yeah! Oh wow! Yes, I forgot. Oh
yeah.
I know.
I think Spider-Man will be as well.
Isn't Spider-Man the 14th?
I think so, and then Witcher was the 15th, or maybe reverse that. I can't remember. But
I thought Witcher was the 12th.
Oh, I could have sworn it was the 15th as well.
Yeah, but no, I had something I was going to say there, and it entirely left my head. It was related to TV too. No, gone.
Premieres on 17th, actually.
17th, yeah, 17th. Okay, not bad. Yeah.
But honestly, myself and Tara are so excited for that one. We're almost certainly going to bang that out in a single day because I'm so pumped for season 2.
Yeah, I'm like 3 episodes. I think 2 or 3 episodes behind. No, I'm 2 episodes behind on the Wheel of Time TV show as well. But I feel okay in being behind in that because I stopped watching the show and I am on the 3rd book.
Yeah, you know anyway. That's actually another one as well. I think Christmas Eve is the last the last episode is airing Christmas Eve for that. So I think maybe over the Christmas break, we might sit down and watch that one as well. Because I'm quite interested. I'm quite interested to see the potential that show has. Some people are speculating that there's enough there and the books are popular enough that it could be the next Game of Thrones if it's handled correctly.
Yeah,
I don't know about that, but only for the fact that lightning doesn't always strike twice, Game of Thrones just happened to be kind of, I don't know, I guess I kind of caught the wind at the right time and took off, but so that's everything. That's literally every single thing going on television there, Martin.
Yeah.
This podcast is now just a video version of your TV guide.
Okay, yeah, good. No, I remember what I was going to say, and it was that me and Mike have been watching Hawkeye as it comes out, and it's been really good so far.
I've heard good things. I've heard it's really, really good. Yeah.
Like, Hawkeye is a character now.
I mean, do you know what? I just feel like he was so mishandled in the first Avengers movie. Like, you basically take him off screen for like everything except the final act of the movie, which is one big battle, which is cool. But also in battles, people do cool things. They don't always say cool things because people are too busy fighting.
Yeah, he did a lot of cool stuff and was on screen a lot, because even when he was like mind controlled by Loki, he still showed up a hell of a lot. Like, he was there in all of the big plot beats. But he didn't.
When he was mind controlled, he didn't say or do anything, or didn't say anything interesting because he was just a mind slave to Loki. So
like, the extent of his character in the first Avengers movie is clench up Legolas. No, that's what Tony Stark says to him, actually.
It is.
Yeah.
I think like the extent of his character is the only 2 lines that come to mind are something about revenge against Loki, and then he's there putting a head on an arrow and he goes, get in line. And then there's another one where Natasha is all like, this reminds me a lot of Budapest, and then he's like, you and I remember Budapest very differently. And they're the only lines I remember, because he literally, and it's not Renner's fault. It's just how the character was handled in the movie,
Yeah, the Russo brothers are far better at giving everyone a little more.
I think he was in that. They kind of had some stuff going on in Ultron, but not like massively.
He got by far the most like character development in Endgame, by far.
Yes, yeah. Not to mention that cold open hits like a truck.
Oh man, yeah. I remember the sound my cinema made when everyone realized what was about to happen. Oh,
I think I knew it was coming, and I was just kind of like, I don't know, the fact that it doesn't come up with opening credits or any music or anything. It goes from all the various film board certifications and stuff like that, and then it's black and quiet for like 20 seconds, and then it just opens. And everyone's kind of shuffled in their seats and got comfortable because like, oh, it's starting. Oh, that was sudden. Okay, and then, oh yeah, wow.
I literally remember like an entire cinema, people just going, oh, when they realized what was about to fucking happen. Oh, sorry, apologies. Okay, you're gonna have to bleep that one. Sorry. Yeah. So you can probably guess. Given
you say that like the algorithm even cares about us.
True. This is very true. This is probably very true. Yeah. So should we start getting into Strixhaven?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Why don't you start? Because I feel like you're going to set a very specific tone.
I'm trying to choose my words carefully. I don't want to be very, very negative, because I don't like to be super negative about D&D, because I love D&D, and as well I know the people who work on the stuff, even if I don't like it, work extremely hard, and even if I don't like it, there's probably lots and lots and lots of people out there who really do like it. If you are a Harry Potter fan who also loves D&D, this was written for you. This was literally written for you. Also, if you like dating sims, this was written for you. If you were a DM who likes working with spreadsheets, this was written for you. I am none of those things other than I am none.
I do like the odd spreadsheet now. But
but yeah, like I think overall there's some, like, as an overall thought, I'll just go general. I think there are some really cool, interesting things in there, particularly when you get to the likes of the stat blocks at the end of the book. It introduced some new spells and some new feats which are interesting. One spell in particular we're definitely going to have a good chat about later on in the podcast.
You mentioned something about this earlier, but I'm actually not sure which one you're talking about, so I'm interested to see what it is.
We'll get into it. It's one of the I think it is a Witherbloom spell, I think.
Nice.
But yeah, look, it's not for me, is what I'm going to say. It's not for me. I, as said to you many times, and you'll be well aware of as my DM, and anyone who's listened to this podcast for any length of time would know, I really like combat in D&D. I really like the problem solving, the challenge, the options for expressing yourself through combat, all that. I love it. It's great. I love that with everything else. That's why there's 3 pillars of one. That's why it's one of the pillars of D&D. This book basically ignores combat, and I get it. It's meant to be set in a college, and stuff. But like, even Harry Potter, right? Which this is so obviously inspired by, so incredibly obviously inspired by, right?
Yeah.
Even Harry Potter, they fight things.
Yeah.
They have dueling battles. They have dueling clubs. They have all this kind of stuff. There's basically nothing for a martial character to do martially in Strixhaven.
I mean, I was reading over some of that stuff a while ago. They don't. One thing I will say, somewhat in defense of that, is that they do offer a few options and kind of insights into how you could be a martial, like just a fighter or just a rogue that isn't, not an arcane trickster, not an eldritch knight. And I think that
they even specifically call out my subclass, the Ancestral Guardian.
Ancestral Guardian, yeah.
For I think that, I believe, for summoning the spirits of the dead to learn about history, which is dope, and it's a thing I'm really looking forward to doing when I get 10th level in Ancestral Barb, getting clairvoyance and augury and being able to talk to my spirits and stuff like that. But if that's true, why are all the example stat blocks for scholars or students from each of the 5 houses sorcerer, druid, or bard, or wizard? Sorry, sorcerer, druid, bard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Or even I think they're basically they give you the option, and like I said, I do want to say that the option, I do love the options they give you and the way they kind of like for what I saw one a while ago. There's one of the colleges is Quandrix,
yes,
which I do want to talk about more in a while. It's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah,
but they're kind of like I literally have. I literally have in my notes, I've written down maths nerds / druids.
Yeah.
Which I think is it's super interesting as a concept. And one of the examples they give for them is being a paladin, Oath of the Ancients, who is studying here to further their knowledge about the natural world as a result. And I'm like, okay, actually, I kind of like the spin on that you've taken this. Again, I know paladins do magic, but they're primarily a martial class. And I like the spin they've put on that. It's kind of interesting. I do think that's a positive perspective on it, but like you said, and we can get more into the stat blocks and the monsters and stuff in a while, or whenever you want. But basically all of the example student stat blocks that come up at the end of the book in the quote unquote monster stat blocks are like 3 levels of each college or school within the college, and each of them is basically just, here's a level 1, level 2, level 3 druid, here's a level 1, level 2, level 3 wizard, and so on. There's no martial eldritch knight style person. There's no arcane trickster rogue type person or anything like that. It is or even like a barbarian that has, again, that might be a college.
The wild magic barbarian. That seems like the exact kind of person who would go to a magical college.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. But there's no, again, like you said, there's however many stat blocks. It's 5 colleges and 3 stat blocks for each, so there's 15 stat blocks for different types of casters. But not a single one of them is an example of how is something you can model your character off. If you're like, I want to be a champion fighter who's in the Lorehold College, so now so I have proficiency in history and all this kind of stuff, and you can do it.
Yeah.
But what if I as the DM want to give an example of an NPC who you guys meet during your adventure in the college, and that NPC is a champion fighter or a berserker barbarian or something like that, or an ancestral guardian barbarian, and like I want to bring them in. I'm not saying you have to cover literally every single subclass, but like give me something to work off of at least.
Give us a template that includes a martial class.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of, I think that is kind of my biggest problem with it, is it feels like it just kind of ignores like a good half to a third of the classes. Because even when you get into stuff like if I was a Hexblade Warlock, I think I would still probably be interested in going to the greatest magical college in the world, as Strixhaven is kind of sold as.
That was kind of Ford's arc for the first few episodes of Critical Role Campaign 2.
Exactly. So we can get. Do you want to go into like pros and cons just straight away? Like because I feel like if I stay on my general stuff, I'm going to be really negative because that's just what kind of jumps out to me.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of focus on the positive stuff first or the negative stuff first?
We'll go through the positives first because I think.
You lead this because you have a more comprehensive list of this than I do.
Yeah. Well, you say comprehensive. You say comprehensive is about 5 points each, but yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, we get 5 brand new dragon stat blocks, 1 for each of the house founders, and they're all really interesting. They've all some really cool, different flavors to their abilities. Like for example, I just pulled it up here. I think I had himself. What was it? Silverquill. Shadrick Silverquill, who has some really cool art, by the way. Really, really cool art. He is he's the founder of Silverquill College, who focus on like eloquence and leadership and producing leaders and stuff like that. And he's got
city politicians, though.
Yeah, he's got. I fear they're like the more kind of bard aligned because Silverquill.
Yes.
But like, what's really cool as well is actually all of the dragons are spellcasters, which is fun. And as well, they all kind of have their own kind of unique little thing to it here. Like Shadrick Silverquill, because his magic focuses on light and shadow. His breath weapon is illuminating shadow breath. He exhales an entwined burst of blinding radiance and unnerving shadow in a 90-foot cone. Each creature must make a DC 21 con save. On a failed save, takes 78 radiant and 78 psychic, and is blinded until the start of his next turn. That's very cool. That's very cool. He also has some stuff because he's related to like the leadership stuff. He's got a legendary action called Flash of Inspiration that costs 3 legendary actions. He magically summons 1d4 Inkling Mascots, which is one of the lower tier monsters that you get in this little. It's like the mascot of the college. An unoccupied space you can see within 60 feet. The Inklings obey his commands to take their turns immediately after his. While any of these live, he has advantage on attack rolls and saving throws, and they disappear after 10 minutes when they die or when he uses this again.
Oh, that's cool. They're literally mascots. They're literally cheerleaders cheering him on. So they're inspiring him to get advantage. That's awesome. Yeah.
And like each of the 5 dragons that you have for each of the ones: Quandrix, Prismari, Silverquill, Witherbloom, and
Lorehold, Quandrix, Silverquill, Prismari.
Lorehold. How did I forget the Lorehold one? But each of them does have kind of a legendary action and also a different kind of like breath weapon, I guess is the best way to put it. But like, they all get a bunch of spells. Like Shadrick Silverquill here gets darkness, daylight, hypnotic pattern, sending, and suggestion, all once a day each, with a spell save of 23, which is pretty crazy. You've got some really cool ones then, like Quandrix, you were saying they're like the math nerds.
They're kind of like I do want to talk about them a bit because they're super interesting to me.
Yeah.
When I read up on them, they're basically like.
Do you want to just go off on them first?
I'll just talk about them for just a sec. We can come back to the others, but so the Quandrix school is kind of like they are. Well, I was a bit confused about what they were trying to explain because they were talking about like mapping patterns and forming equations around these patterns, but that they're also like. They're like enthusiasts about the natural world, and I was like, wait, surely that's a contradiction. And I'm like, no, they're
physicists
basically, and but like early age physicists, where like, because I think oftentimes like science and nature can be like opposed forces, and even like the regular druid in D&D can be a little bit like that, where there's natural magic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's like natural magic, and then there's like arcane magic, like wizards.
Yeah.
But these guys are kind of like the meeting point of the two of those on the Venn diagram, and they basically try to form, like I said, patterns and study the patterns in things. And when I was reading up on this, I immediately thought about like all the various patterns, like honeycombs making little hexagonals. Or like if you look on the inside of a tree branch, you see all the rings of the tree branch and stuff like that. Or like there's a bunch of different stuff, spider webs,
the Fibonacci sequence and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's so much naturally occurring patterns, and I picture them. I think there's a description of them using their magic, and like they basically form all of these like kind of arcane sigils in the air, that are they would resemble natural things, but they're very kind of like it's almost as if someone drew a diagram of this thing. It's just really interesting to me, the idea that you're like trying to apply a scientific method to a chaotic force like nature itself.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. They kind of focus on what was it? Kind of it's.
I do like how it's described here. I think is what you're going to say. They're mages who seek knowledge for its own sake, guided by the mathematical principles that describe and govern the nature of reality.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's. I think a lot of druids, or a lot of ways druids are played normally, is like, oh, I just am with the world. I'm one with the world, and I like nature. But I don't think I've ever considered the possibility of making a druid character that is like, oh no, but I study like the natural world from a very scientific perspective. Rather than just caring for animals, trying to actually understand them. It's a really, it's an interesting take on it. I do like it.
I do actually really like that approach for a druid, like rather than just being like I'm in tune, like the very kind of touchy feely, I sense the power of the natural world. It's like, no, I know the equations that govern the rotation of the planets in the sky. Like
exactly.
That's how I'm in tune with nature, because I know this shit.
Exactly. Or like you might be like, some people might be like, oh, this plant is withering, it's sad, and like I can feel its sadness. You're like, no, I'm the kind of druid who's like, I know it's quote unquote sad because it's not getting enough nutrients in the soil, or because of the rain. The rains have not come in this region for a long time, and it's whatever. Like it's a more logical approach to it. Not that all druids are really weird hippie people, but like they're. Yeah, I think it's an easy trap to fall into with druids, and one I have a hard time getting my brain out of when I try to get creative with druids. But this is an interesting take that gives me a different point of view for it, which I like.
I do really love the idea of like saying there's like a dying crop or something, and like there's one druid sitting down there like meditating, being like, my presence and my natural in oneness with nature will help restore the livestock, or help restore the life to this plant. And then this other druid just walks over and goes, cut that branch, and that branch. It'll get more sunlight and it'll be fine in a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. Actually, playing like a conservationist druid that just goes around like fixing where people have brought in like foreign invasive species and like just ruined like the natural habit. Like, oh, like you've come to this town because they've dug really far into a hillside, and now there's just constant mudslides, and they need someone to fix it. And like the exact ratio of like earth to stone to whatever to pile back in to fix this and stop this happening.
They also have a lot of they focus on a lot of divination related stuff as well. Yes. I'm actually looking at Tanazir Quandrix, who is the dragon for that one. Funnily enough, he has 444 hit points. That's interesting.
And he looked, if there was ever a Mats dragon, that's a Mats dragon.
Oh yeah. Even his wings, like again, his wings have an interesting pattern to them that very much kind of make it.
They're almost
like
follow fairy wings.
A little bit, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I'm also noticing that a lot of the dragons have dual elemental type breaths. So, for example, Lorehold does force damage and thunder damage. Quandrix does force and psychic. Silverquill does psychic and radiant. Prismari does fire and cold, which is like, if I have my fireproof armor on, it's just that's just a big FU to the player who's like resistant to one of those things.
Screw you in particular.
Yeah, exactly.
I do love the art for the Lorehold, for Velomachus Lorehold, and she's got all the scrolls hanging from like her neck and shoulders there.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. And you can see like the spell scroll cases hanging from the sides as well. Oh man, I really like that. That's whoever did that art, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I mean, look, it's I don't think it's ever really something we ever talk about, but that's because I don't think it ever really needs to be talked about. The art in this book is great, as it usually is. Like D&D rarely, I don't think. I'm trying to think, is there any book I ever looked at the art in and thought this is very lackluster? I don't think so.
Yeah, I can't ever remember seeing like I'm like technically there is no thing as bad art because any art that draws a reaction from you has done its job, but like badly crafted art is the best way I'd make maybe a better way, but just like unskilled, like anything of a low skill level in a D&D book, it's they always get like top tier artists to come in.
Absolutely,
and blow people away, and I think it actually really helps as well. In terms of just like visualizing a lot of these things, but sorry, please go on. You were telling us about the math nerds.
No, sorry, that's really all I wanted to cover. I just thought that's a very interesting take on because again, I think the trap that people fall into is that I'm a druid, so you like nature and stuff like that. It's like, oh cool, I'm going to be some form of hippie conservationist who wouldn't ever dare step on a blade of grass because that would upset me, kind of thing. Whereas I'm like, no, there's people who like go into forests and, like you said, they prune certain trees because these branches are not healthy or whatever, and that actually means the rest of the tree can grow stronger. Or maybe there's certain animals that are breeding out of control. Again, if you're going with the trap version of the druid, you're like, I'd never harm a living creature. But like if you're going with like a proper conservationist, you might be like, well, the deer population is getting really, really out of control and they're damaging a lot of the things, so we're going to introduce some wolves into the equation here, and that'll balance things out for us. And when the wolves get too much, we'll hunt the wolves and they'll be all good.
And then we'll release the snakes, and then when winter comes around, the snakes will freeze.
Oh, what was the one?
No, that was the apes, wasn't it? We'll release wave after wave of poisonous snake-eating ape into the city to get rid of the snakes. And what we do with the apes, then when winter comes around, the apes will all freeze.
That was the episode where Bart raised the two lizards in the bird eggs. Yeah.
And they're like these horrendous, like bird-devouring invasive species.
His name is something Boy and Bart Jr.
Egg Boy?
The birds.
Egg Boy, I want to say.
Second up.
Yeah. While you're looking that up, just as well.
Yes, you go on. His name is Chirpy Boy and Bart Jr.
Boy.
That's
okay, yeah. I actually really liked, I like it just because I'm a history nerd. The Lorehold College actually appeals to me a lot as well. I love it. Velmax Lorehold, she's the dragon who founded it, and she basically got tired of seeing mortals repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. So went, you need to write this down. You will forget. I have seen it happen. So she set up a Lorehold College to try and like prevent future disasters happening by recording all the past ones, so that we can learn from that and fostering a love of that kind of knowledge and education and history in students at Lorehold. And like, just a side note, like, yeah, I generally have problems with this book, but like the actual like lore and story of the colleges and all that, really cool. Really love it. Love the idea.
Oh yeah.
Love the idea of five dragons coming together because they decide they need to teach people magic to like preserve the world or whatever.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I think it's a really cool idea, and I think like we said, it's very Harry Potter, but there's also nothing wrong with that because I think there's a lot of the Venn diagram. To bring Venn diagrams up for the second time in this podcast, the Venn diagram of people who like D&D versus people who like Harry Potter, there's probably a lot of overlap there because there's a lot of similar things going on. Yeah. There's monsters and magic items, and people are studying and practicing magic and all this other stuff. So yeah.
Like at the moment, I wouldn't consider myself a Harry Potter fan really, but like when I was like, if you asked me when I was like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all the way up to like 17 maybe, I would have said yeah, because like I love the books, I love the movies, but as I got older, I just kind of grew out of them.
I actually only finished the books properly 2 or 3 years ago. I was listening to the audiobooks because I got all the way to Order of the Phoenix, and then there's a few chapters in it that I thought were going really slow, because maybe slow by my standards, I don't read nearly as fast as you do, but there's a few chapters in it that are like, it's just the guys going to class like repeatedly for like 2 or 3 chapters, and I think I just put it down at one point and I just never went back to it, which is a shame because Order of the Phoenix is when stuff gets getting really real in that. And I was like, but then I went back and I listened to all the audiobooks properly, and they are good books, and I like the movies. The movies are great as well, even if they do get a little bit muddled towards the end because there's too much information and not enough hours in the movie. But they're good. They're great watching stuff. So I don't know if I'm like I'm not like a super fan. Tara is a super fan, but I like Harry Potter. It's good laugh.
Yeah, it's decent. Like I don't like I used to be a big fan of it. I'm not as much anymore, but like that's just me, kind of just my tastes changing as I got older. Nothing to do with like the actual quality of the material. Let's see here. One thing we did get, which is really cool, which is we got a new playable race, the Owlin.
Yes, let me bring up the Owlin actually, because
it's an interesting one, right? Because they've a lot of stuff that I do actually like. They've dark vision out to 120 feet. You can be small or medium, up to you. Your class is a humanoid. 30 feet walk speed. You have a flying speed equal to your walking speed. Which, like we've pointed out before with stuff like, I believe the fairy had that as well. If you get like hasted or any kind of boosts to your walking speed, it means your flying speed also takes that boost as well.
I mean, for that reason, I think the last time we talked about this, we were bringing up the UA about this, or maybe it was when we talked about Wild Beyond the Witchlight and the fairy and
Yes,
stuff.
I think so.
But yeah, the fairy did maintain its ability to its fly speed equals its walking speed, which is why if you play a monk fairy or anything like that, you're talking about getting crazy fast flying speeds. Also, it means that if you take the feat mobile, that counts for your flying speed as well as your walking speed. Whereas Aarakocra as a race, which is the only other race bar fairies and Owlin, who get an inherent fly speed, I believe. Let's double check that. But I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, the feral tiefling as well. Yeah. But other than that, I think the Aarakocra is locked in at 50 feet fly speed. I want to say it is.
I think so. Yeah, I built an Aarakocra gunslinger before, and I think I had that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's. I don't know. This is good, by the way. I just feel like the Aarakocra, like I think we're seeing it more and more with D&D, because something that a certain developer at D&D, whose name I won't mention because he's been since disgraced, a certain thing he mentioned during a stream once was how they design stuff. So when it comes to like trying to design a new subclass or something like that, they will never look at something that is in Xanathar's or something that's in Tasha's. They will only look, when trying to gauge power levels, they will only look at the player's handbook and never compare it to anything else. Because if you make something in the player's handbook and then you compare your next subclass to that, it might be a little more powerful, but within the same realm. But then if you compare your next subclass to the second one you made, it might be a little more powerful again, and before long you have this power creep effect. And I think I feel like probably everyone at Wizards of Course has that in mind, or has a policy on that, where we only try to judge new stuff off the base game rather than any of the expanded material, to avoid that from happening. But with something like this now with the Owlin, where they have, I'll bring up Aarakocra, but I mean, like, the fact that they have that fly speed, they have 120 feet of dark vision, which makes sense because owls are like really, really good night hunters, night predators. And then they have proficiency in stealth and stuff, and I think they have 30 feet walking speed. I want to say Aarakocra only have 25 feet walking speed.
I think they have 30.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I think they do.
But I think we're despite Wizards trying their hardest to not let it happen, I think we're getting to the point where maybe the power creep thing is starting to just naturally take effect, despite them trying to stem the tides of it. Because again, they have 25 walking speed. They have a locked 50 feet for their fly speed. Other than that, they're more or less the same. They have talons, which they can use as weapons.
You can do an entire 4-man party now with all the classes all the races that have a flying speed equal to their walking speed. Feral Tiefling, Aarakocra, Owlin, and Fairy.
That'd be a nightmare to DM.
Yeah,
that'd be an absolute nightmare to DM. We have what, one and a half players in our current party who can fly on command, because one of them can only do it in darkness. But like, that's already annoying, because I have to, for every encounter I do now, I need to be like, and this giant, like, you fought some earth elementals recently. I had to give them the ability to be able to like throw. I think I give like a shrapnel rock effect where they can just hurl a fistful of rocks at you guys, and it'd be like a shotgun of rocks coming at you. But I had to give them that because I knew that there's a couple of people in the party that will just go up 60 feet in the air and blast them from above. So yeah. It's always an additional layer. But yeah, I'm sorry. The point I was trying to make a second ago was just like I feel like with that additional, they also don't have dark vision, Aarakocra.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like in my head, with like a locked fly speed, 5 feet less than your movement speed, you have talent, but it's not really a huge bonus. And then
Aarakocra get a stat increase though, don't they?
Well, so do Owlin.
No, they do not.
They do. They get the standard.
Where does it say that?
Go up to where it says creating your character, and it says ability score increases. It follows the new rules where they don't have inherent ones, but you can just pick a 1 and a 2.
That's what I get for skipping past the usual stuff.
I mean that's every race going forward. It's going to be like that now. They're no longer doing the inherent things for races. You just pick a +1 and a +2 to whatever stat you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like when you consider the fact that they have 120 feet of dark vision, which nobody else has, by the way, except for warlocks, if you take a specific.
Because Gloomstalker, if Gloomstalker, you would need to have 90 already to get out to 120.
Yeah, so they can get to 90 if you pick that class. But even like again, like you could get to 150 if you did a Gloomstalker Owlin, which actually kind of works really well because owls are night hunters, and you could do a Gloomstalker build. It's so cool.
Yeah. But then Shadow Monk as well, because we were talking about like build a.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I just thought of a really terrible joke. Build a fairy monk and just put all your key points into Step of the Wind, and your fairy Alan, the fastest man alive.
Wow, terrible. Get out. But I mean, like, okay, so the way I'm looking at this, right? Again, I think that power creep is happening because I like Aarakocra in concept, and I think they're actually not terrible as a race. But now we have the Owlin, who have a fly speed which may start off as less, but can be much, much more. And also then we have like way better we have dark vision, which is not only dark vision, it's double the normal distance dark vision. We have 5 feet faster on walk speed, and you have a natural proficiency in stealth. I just think that the Aarakocra, because I think it's already the least played race in the game, and I think this only kicks it down the ladder another couple of rungs, because the Owlin is kind of superior from where I'm looking at it, you know.
Yeah, no, I can totally see. I do find it interesting that they've now twice done 2 races that are very similar. You have the Owlin and the Aarakocra, and then you have the Tabaxi and the Leonin.
Yeah, I think things are getting a little bit crowded.
Yeah, because like, no, if you want to do like a Tabaxi but make it more like a lion, you could have just done that. And it's kind of the same.
Oh yeah.
Like I do appreciate the options, but yeah, I'm just curious. Like I hope they don't double up on too many more races, you know, because just can you imagine if you all start at a party and then someone's like, hey, I'm an Aarakocra, I'm an Owlin, I'm a Tabaxi, and I'm a Leonin, and it's like, okay, so who's stepping on whose toes here?
Yeah, I'm also thinking, like, I was thinking about this earlier today. As much as I think the Owlin are pretty solidly built here, I think that's a really good class or a race I could see myself playing very easily. As much as I like that, I think if you look at like the way the core classes are, or core races, and then some of the expanded ones like Triton and stuff like that are quite good as well. But because we didn't really have a swimming or kind of aqua based race before that. The more and more we kind of expand and flesh out, the less and less diversity I'm seeing. Not in terms of what they look like or how their culture is, or whatever, but in terms of the abilities they get. This is kind of a thing where people give out a lot about the fact that so many races have dark vision. Yes. But also like the stuff that, like, I don't know, even going back as far as the Ganassi. I really like Ganassi in concept because I love elemental stuff, and I think that's really, really cool. But like, even though like, look at my homebrew world, I've rewritten the 2 of the Ganassi races, the earth and the air, because they're inherently weaker than the fire and the water. And I gave my air Ganassi resistance to falling damage. because I'm like, you're made of air. Of course, you're not going to hit the ground as hard. But I mean, like, no other race has that then. And I'm like, I want to see a bit more diversity in what people can do, rather than just being like, doing the usual. Do they have dark vision? Do they have a fly speed? Do they have a swim speed? Are they resistant to an element? Like, don't give me that. Give me, like, I don't know. Give me like a fire-based race, okay? That, like, if you, let's just say for Toxic they make another elemental fire race, okay? It's like those fire newts you get in Volo's Guide, for example.
Salamanders.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just say they go, here's a salamander race. If they did that, and then they're like, oh, they have a bite attack, and then they have dark vision out to this range, and then they're resistant to fire damage, I'd be like, I could have done that myself. You know, give me like a race that's like, okay,
I'd give them disadvantage on stealth inherently.
Because they're glowing. Yeah, see there, but that's an example. But I was thinking, like, don't give me just plain old resistance to fire damage. Like, give me immunity, because no other race has immunity to fire damage. Or give me a thing where I have immunity, but if you hit me with fire, I regain my proficiency in health points back. That'd be amazing. That'd be so good.
On the vestige, I gave Mandrai, my wildfire spirit druid. In its current form, it has an ability like that. It's called Flame Eater. And basically, when he's the target of an attack of a spell that deals fire damage, he can use his reaction to half that damage and only take half that, and then basically regurgitate the flames back out. He like breathes in the fire and takes only half the damage, and then the other half of the damage is directed back at the caster, and they have to make a save to avoid it. And it's save or suck, but like.
That's good, but that's cool though. I mean, like, I'd like to see. I don't know. I just think we have so many races now in D&D. It's a little bit bloated, and I only really notice, I guess, because don't get me wrong, options are great. I only notice because I've every time a new race comes out, I'm like, cool. Where in my already overcrowded world am I going to put these guys for my homebrew world? Because I'm like, at this point, I'm basically like, yeah, Owlin come from the moon.
I love it.
Because I say with the Heron Gun as well. I like the Heron Gun a lot, but I'm like, I've nowhere to put these guys. I guess they're just a Fey race. They come from the moon.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, we're getting a little bogged down in design philosophy here for 5th edition.
We are, I think probably a good thing to go on top of now, because one of the major things that we had that shows up in Strixhaven is the Strixhaven backgrounds / feats that lead into the spells.
Yeah.
So you get like a bunch. I just have to go back to this thing real quick. 1 second. Yeah. But yeah, you get a bunch of backgrounds for being a Strixhaven student. So it'll be tied to like your 4 or your 5 houses rather, that we've aforementioned. And basically that background will give you certain extra spells at certain levels, and it will also give you certain new spells depending on which school you choose. So there's specific ones to like Lorehold and all these kind of other ones. I'm just trying.
This is actually a section I have a problem with.
Oh, please, by all means, because I also have. We can get, when you are done with that, we can get on to what is now literally the new best spell in the game.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I will say I like Owlin. Great addition. I like
me too, by the way. Yeah, I like Owlin a lot. Yeah.
Again, I'm always a little bit hesitant about anything that makes previously existing stuff irrelevant, and I feel like Aarakocra are already the least popular race in D&D 5e. This only makes them a bit less popular in my books. I'd sooner play an Owlin now than an Aarakocra. Anyway, sorry. So when it comes to these backgrounds, you have the one for each hold and stuff like that, and I actually think they're quite cool. You have they point you in the right direction. That you have history and religion for Lorehold. I think you have performance and acrobatics and performance for Prismari, which are like I think what I have in my notes here for this.
They're all about like expressing.
They're art students.
Yeah, they're all about like expressing yourselves through the elements and being flashy.
Yeah. Which I think is actually, it's a really cool combo. So again, they point you very much in the right direction, and then they give you some spells, which they're like, oh, okay, here are some spells. Doesn't matter what class you play. If you have any sort of spell casting or pact magic ability, these are added to your spell list for you. And I'm like, brilliant. I love that. It gives you diversity. It lets you, even if I want to play, for example, a sorcerer who's part of the Lorehold College, they don't get a ton of divination stuff, not like actual wizards would. But this gives you a bunch of divination-related stuff that you can absolutely use to keep your character on theme. Go down a bit further, it gives you, or is it a bit above? Sorry, it is a feature here where you get the Lore Hold Initiate. By the way, okay, I've already dug too deep on this. This is going to be a really obsessive bookkeeping issue I have with this, and not necessarily a fundamental flaw with it.
Okay.
But the Lore Hold Initiate feature, because if you go to the feats section, right?
Yeah.
They have the Strixhaven Initiate feat.
Right.
And they say, for Lore Hold, choose 2 cantrips from this list of 3, and then choose 1 first level spell from one of these 2 classes.
Right.
Then they say, Prismari, choose 2 from these 3, and 1 first level spell from these 2 classes. You could have just told me to use the Magic Initiate. Why are you I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, it's a bookkeeping thing. It's here, I feel like I would have been way more annoyed. I feel like they couldn't justify having a section labeled feats plural when there's literally only 1 feat in the game or new feat in the book, because the Strixhaven Initiate one is literally just a different version of the Magic Initiate feat. They could have been like, here's the Magic Initiate feat. And if you want, maybe pick some spells like this if you're playing this particular college. But instead, they're like, here's a brand new feat, nothing you've ever seen before. I'm getting really weird about this. I'm sorry, but it's a weird one for me. It's really stupid and obsessive, and I'm aware of what I am. Okay. That's all I want to talk about that.
Okay, yeah. But basically, you take feats and backgrounds that basically give you access to more it's certain skills and proficiencies based on the house you choose. Like you're saying with Lore Hold, it was like history and arcana, I think you were saying.
Yes, history and religion.
History and religion. Apologies, yeah, history and religion. You get 2 languages, and then you get a bunch. And for each, you'll get equipment as well. That's kind of just related to what your house focuses on. So just because I have it open here, Lore Hold is a bottle of black ink, an ink pen, a hammer, a hooded lantern, a tinderbox, a tome of history, a school uniform, and a pouch containing 15 gold pieces. So not terrible.
But it's pretty standard as far as starting equipment goes.
Yeah, and you do get some decent spells from your classes. Like Lore Hold here, comprehend languages, identify at first level, borrowed knowledge, which is a new spell, locate object at second, speak with dead and spirit guardians at third, arcane eye and stone shape at fourth, and then flame strike and legend lore at fifth.
What's cool about this is that some of these are no, I'd have to double check to be 100%. Some of these are not available to certain classes.
Yeah.
But they've kind of thrown out. It's actually funny
because they're a mix. Like all the houses are a mix of 1 or 2 traditions of spellcasting.
Yeah. But that was actually a thing. Remember when they tried to?
Because they tried to bring us out as individual subclasses. I remember.
They were individual subclasses that were like, here's a thing that makes your wizard into a cleric or vice versa and stuff like that. So they've kind of kept it in, but in a different form. But I actually really like this. And again, in the interest of keeping your character on theme, if you're a Lorehold College person, for example, here's a bunch of identifying and divination related spells, or speak with dead, and all this other stuff that you can use to communicate with the past or learn new information, however you want to do that. So yeah.
And what's cool as well is for each house as well, they include a table of personality traits and a table of trinkets, so that if you want to add a couple extra layers or bits to your Strixhaven student or whatever house you choose, you have it's 6 options each. Yeah, 6 options each. You can, if you just want to roll randomly and just let chaos choose what you're like, that's it as well. I kind of want to jump right into the spells because there are magic items in this book, but they're not really anything significant, is the way I describe them.
Okay. My personality trait for my Lorehold character is I can speak eloquently about the historical ramifications of an ancient war, but ask me to do a 2-digit number, or put 2 digit numbers together, and I'm a mess.
Yo, that's me.
And then for my trinket, I got a broken dagger with a wavy blade and a serpentine hilt, which is maybe from that ancient war. Okay, cool. So I just wanted to roll the tables.
No, that's cool. That's actually cool. Like, see, like there are some really cool stuff in this, and if you are someone who is very, very into your social aspect of your D&D, not so much your combat, and you're kind of more like, and there are actually a lot of mechanical crunch to the social systems that they've put into it. I've looked into it a bit just to kind of get a general understanding, and we kind of go into it in a bit. But yeah, in terms of the magic items, there's not really a lot new there. Or
the magic items is maybe one of the more disappointing things I have seen
for a mage's college. College.
This is okay. So this I think you maybe dislike the book more than me. But I could talk around. I also don't really love the book either. I think it's fine at best. This is maybe the biggest crime in the book. Is that this is a book about a mage's college. And they give you. There's nothing here above uncommon.
Yeah.
And they give you, and 4 of them are the same.
And 2 of them, they just go look in the DMG.
Yeah, because one of them is just a spell scroll, and one of them is a +1 weapon.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry, 5 of them are the same, because they have these primer things, which are basically spell books, I believe.
Yeah, they're spell books that give you advantage. You can add a D4 to a check, I believe, for stuff like exams and stuff like. Because they have systems for you taking exams and things like that.
Yeah,
and they
which is something I do like, but
they'll also let you learn a spell, I believe, from a certain class list.
You can expend 1 charge. You can choose 1 spell from the druid or wizard spell list and prepare it. Yeah, so but again, of the list, that is what 10 items long. Yeah. 5 of them are just these primers, 1 for each college. 1 of them is a +1 weapon, 1 of them is a spell scroll, and for the remaining 3, there is a pendant that literally identifies you as a member of the college, and it sheds light in a 10-foot radius. There's a Strixhaven mascot. I'll come back to that one in a second. I don't think that does a whole lot. Tiny mention of cuddling.
Cuddly Strixhaven mascot.
You literally, it's a stuffed animal you bring from home when you go to college, so that you don't miss home, because if you get frightened, you can end the frightening condition on yourself. The only one of all of these I actually like is the bottle of Boundless coffee, because it's quite literally one of those like reusable coffee cups that you would take with you to college, and it even says like it won't let you put any liquids other than coffee in it, so you can't have like an Irish coffee or anything like that while you're in class.
See, this is why I made the intro coming from somebody's Harry Potter fanfiction. And that was meme. Yeah. That was just for the meme, right? But this book, in terms of how it's set up and the things it focuses on, to me anyway, really feels like someone at Wizards wrote Harry Potter fanfiction and then decided they wanted to make an RPG out of it. Like, it's not my thing. I'm sure there's lots of people who play D&D who will absolutely adore this. Now, there are a lot of really cool things in it that I like, but I cannot say I'm not incredibly disappointed that a mage's college has 10 magic items in the book, and nothing is above uncommon. Nothing is above uncommon. And even those even those uncommon ones, there are some really interesting and cool uncommon magic items in the book. Like in D&D as a whole, there are some really ones when you get in there. None of these are like, I swear to God, like, isn't like the primers aren't the primers literally just badges? No, the primer's a book. Sorry, what I'm thinking of is the
strict pendant.
So right, if I were to be incredibly harsh about this magic item system, I would say in a college where they explicitly say, and so I pulled up when I was doing research for this, I found a Polygon article about Strixhaven, and there's a quote from the senior designer Amanda Hammond, and she says, it's not so much a university to learn how to be a caster as it is a university to learn about magic and the application of magic and the existence of magic in the world. Right.
I feel like that's in direct contradiction to this spell list or this magic item list I'm looking at right now.
Exactly. That's one of my biggest problems. When I saw that like, if that was your mission statement, you failed your mission statement.
I think in the intro to the book, where they kind of say what this book is about in chapter 1, they mention that as well. They're like, this is a college. I think they say Strixhaven is not about only teaching, because they want to kind of cover the fact that it's not just for wizards and warlocks and sorcerers. It's also for fighters and barbarians and paladins and stuff as well.
And that feels incredibly lip service at that as well.
Well, when they're saying that, what they say in the start is that it's not so much about learning. It's not so much about learning magic. I'll bring it up in a sec. It's not so much about like learning magic as it is about finding magical solutions to everyday problems. And I'm like, I feel like we should have a magic item list 4 times that length.
Yeah. And
where
where's the Artificers College in this place then?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean.
And now I know this is a magic crossover, and they're divided into 5 because there's 5 different kinds of mana and magic, and like I get it. It's limited by it's another IP crossing over into D&D, but like, this is so disappointing. This is so disappointing.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to find that fucking thing. So Strixhaven full cast. Oh, here we go. Magic. I just read the first line of this paragraph again, and it's again just when you read that read this line, and then go and look at the magic item spell list. Magic is everywhere on campus. For our audio listeners, Connor is staring at the camera with a confused expression on his face. Magic is everywhere on campus. The campus culture encourages finding magical solutions to the most mundane problems, and if characters need to access the spell they can't cast, they have strong chance of finding someone who can cast it. Again, with a magic, like, we have a lot of magic items elsewhere, but I mean, like, if you're gonna peddle me a book that's the book for running a magical college of wizards and sorcerers, and you have all these things, and you're basically literally, even the fighters, like, everyone in this has magic, and that's what they're trying to push the idea with the book. But if you give me, again, a list 10 items long, nothing above uncommon, 5 of the items are the same, 2 of the items are already printed in the DMG, and of the remaining 3, 1 of them is kind of interesting. I mean, the ball was dropped on that section. There's some good stuff in this book, but the ball was massively dropped on that section.
Like, when you say like they find magical solutions to even the most mundane of problems, right? Where's the self-writing quill? Where's the infinite ink bottle? Where's like a magical version of a dictaphone where you can just record a lecture?
Where is the, I don't know, the whatever the physical equivalent to a Tensor's floating disc is that carries your books for you?
I was going to say, where's the luggage from Terry Pratchett books that carries your shit around for you? It just doesn't make sense. And like, I get they probably just don't want to like load it down.
I'll do anything to bring up Tensor's floating disc.
If we ever have a T-shirt for this thing, it'll just be Tensor's floating disc across the chest.
It'll be Tensor's floating disc, and it'll be like some sort of outline of me going, "It's a real spell, guys. I swear, it's a real spell."
It'll be Tensor's floating disc with just your head resting on it, and the caption, "It's a real spell."
Yeah.
But yeah, right, now that we've kind of ragged on their magic items and their logic behind it enough, in good, all in good fun, but yeah, it's just a bit disappointing. We'll go into the spells here that you get, specifically the new ones from this book. So they're kind of, some of them are very clearly kind of associated with certain schools. I'm gonna leave the first one off for a second. We'll not talk about that one till the end, because that's the one we're probably going to spend the most time talking about. Okay. So it's all of them except for Silvery Barbs are second level spells. So we've got Silvery Barbs at first level, Borrowed Knowledge at second, Kinetic Jaunt at second, Vortex Warp at second, and Wither and Bloom at second. Silvery Barbs is Enchantment, Borrowed Knowledge is Divination, Kinetic Jaunt Transmutation, Vortex Warp Conjuration, and Wither and Bloom Necromancy. And obviously each of those ties specifically to a school. So Kinetic Jaunt.
I'm gonna jump on something here,
please.
So it just, not to get, again, I don't want to bog down on negativities, but in a similar vein to what we're saying about the magic items being all very low level, these are all first and second level spells.
Yeah, this is meant to be a university as well, not like a Harry Potter or secondary school type. Because like Harry Potter, they come out at 18, don't they?
17, I think they're adults.
Yeah, 17. This is meant to be like you're in college. This is like, I don't know about you, but like I had friends doing certain disciplines of science in college who were like, if you were to make the equivalent, they'd be casting vitriolic sphere. Like, you know what I mean? You know, working with like specifically incredibly powerful acids, doing like chemistry or engineering and stuff like that. I actually didn't tweak that myself either. I'm shocked that you don't get anything higher than second.
again, just I don't know. Like again, okay. There, I would say there is and I won't jump into it. I've not read up on it properly, but I know that there is a 1st to 10th level campaign in this book in the middle three chapters of the book, chapters 3 to 6.
Yeah.
And it takes you through your 1 to 4 years of college, and there's some cool stuff in that. And I get that, like, maybe they're trying to focus on lower level spells because you won't really get to like 6th and 7th and 8th level spells. But at the same time, I don't know.
Fifth level spells though.
You can get to a couple fifths and stuff like even if you put in one 5th level spell and you could be like, hey, this is like, if you're the wizard in the class, it's your goal to get your qualifications. You can cast this amazing 5th level spell.
Yeah,
you know,
that is the thing. Like, it's like university is all very advanced. It's like meant to be like, this is higher education. Like, if you were to directly transpose that idea onto Magic, it'd be like you spent like, say, like ages 12 to 18 learning like spells of level 1 through 6, and then you graduate to Strixhaven and they teach you 6 through 9 or whatever else over the 4. Yeah, it's just it doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. But look, we'll get into some of the spells because some of them are actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh no. Sorry. Yeah. Please go on. I do think these are actually good spells of what I've looked at in them. Again, just the fact that everything is so low level in this is weird to me when this is the sorry, what was that again? Magic is everywhere. Yes, that's it. Okay. I want to check my checks and notes. Magic is everywhere. Okay. Did you say so?
Okay, but like, getting into the magic they do actually give us, we have Borrowed Knowledge, which is a 2nd level divination spell. Takes an action to cast, and it's ranged on self. Its components are V, S, and M, so verbal, somatic, and material. And it lasts for an hour. You draw on.
I like that this one is the book. You need a book worth at least 25 gold pieces, and that's the material component.
That's pretty cool. All right, yeah. But yeah, you draw knowledge from the spirits of the past. Choose one skill in which you lack proficiency, and for the spell's duration, you have proficiency in the chosen skill. This spell ends early if you cast again. I think this would be great for like someone who isn't good at stealth, for example. Like, if you have to stealth into somewhere, you read your book and you like learn how to stealth from like some ancient assassin from like 200 years ago.
Like in the Sly Cooper games, the Thievius Raccoonus.
Oh, I was gonna say the like the Animus in Assassin's Creed, but that's a much better reference. I loved Sly Cooper.
They're such good games. Do you know what this thing? I actually feel like I could build a whole character around just this spell, because this spell is, I don't know how to do something, but I carry my core my books from college on me. Hold up, let me just check. Yeah, okay, I know what I'm doing. It's basically carrying the manual of life with you.
I can foresee Arkham possibly asking about this.
I'd be okay with him taking that. Yeah. That's a cool spell.
It just, so I meant by what I meant by that is like, it's very in fitting with a Pact of the Tome Warlock.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
After, and that's available to Bard, Cleric, Warlock, and Wizard. After that, we've got Kinetic Jaunt, which is lasts for a minute. It's a bonus action transmutation spell, and it targets self as well. So you magically empower your movement with dance-like steps. This is obviously from Prismari. Dance-like steps, giving yourself the following benefits for the duration. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet. You don't provoke opportunity attacks, and you can move through the space of another creature, and it does not count as difficult terrain. However, if you end your turn in another creature space, you are shunted to the last unoccupied space you occupied, and you take a D8 force damage. This is really good for a second.
I really like this. Yeah. Did you know? I know you haven't played much Apex. There's this character named Wraith in Apex who can basically drop into the void, which is like their ethereal plane, and she goes invisible. You can only see this kind of thin blue stream of where she's going. She can't be hit. She moves a bit faster. And basically she reappears then wherever you move to after 4 or 5 seconds or whatever it is. But this is kind of a spell of that. You basically speed up, run away, don't provoke opportunity attacks, move through people if you need to, and then you just reappear somewhere else. I think it's a great spell.
If you wanted to play a Tracer in D&D, this is a spell you would take.
That'd be a good one for her. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, that one's for Artificer, Bard, Sorcerer, and Warlock. So they do have Artificer here. They have Artificer list, like they expect people who play to pick Artificer.
It's on the wizard spell list as well. You could you pick that as a okay, sorry, okay, my mind is going places now. Because if you wanted to play Wraith from Apex, and wanted to use this. She's more of an attacker, but she carries a kunai on her and stuff, and a lot of her finishing moves will be her finishing you off with a knife. You could totally play a rogue character, go arcane trickster, pick this as one of your spells, and kind of my mind's going places on how to build her as a character. But that's I do like the spell a lot. I think it's a cool one. Reminds me a little bit of is it not Steel Wind Strike? What's it on? The low level ranger one. It's like a first or second level spell.
I know the one you're thinking of.
Yeah, it's gonna drive me mental.
And I know Zephyr Strike.
Zephyr Strike, that's the one. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Zephyr Strike.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it's like do you know what's weird for a source book that has no combat in it? That's a really good combat spell. Like it's a really good combat spell. After that, we've got Vortex War, which is another. It's a conjuration spell, instantaneous, takes 1 action casting time, and has a range of 90 feet. You magically twist space around another creature. This is Quandrix, by the way, in case you couldn't realize. This is the math nerds. You magically twist space around another creature you can see within range. That target must succeed on a con save. The target can choose to fail, or the target is teleported to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within range. The chosen space must be on a surface or in a liquid that can support the target without the target having to squeeze. What?
You can teleport someone.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just like, the chosen space must be on a surface or in a liquid that can support the target without having to... Oh, okay, sorry, yeah.
You can't put them into a bottle of milk, is what they're saying.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. The wording of that just kind of weirded me out. And when you use that, when you increase the spell level for each spell above 3rd or higher, the range of the spell increases by 30 feet.
Wait, hold. Oh no, okay. I was gonna say if it's 30 feet, but it has to be on a surface, because I was gonna say 30 feet for every new spell level, just teleport them like 100 feet in the air.
Yeah, insta die. Yeah, that's pretty dope. No, I really like this. This would be a really cool thing for like if you were like a battlefield commander kind of wizard, like a war, or maybe the war mage, something like moving troops around and stuff. That'd be really cool.
It's cool because you can also do it if like.
Just
you need to get someone out of your way.
Oh my god, yes. Move an enemy from. Oh wait, is it somewhere you can see?
I think it has to be somewhere. I presume.
Yeah, that you can see within range. Damn it. Oh my god.
What were you gonna say?
It would be just really funny just to teleport someone behind a locked door.
I mean, you could do that with prison bars. Imagine. Okay, for a second, scenario: you're in a cell block. Your rogue has just picked the lock to get you guys out of your cell. You're about to escape when the prison guard walks in and he's got a glaive and he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he goes to run for you, and you just quickly cast Vortex War and you look at the cell to the left and he just goes and appears inside the cell.
Oh, that's really cool. This is weaponizing Nightcrawler's teleportation, and I am here for it. I am.
Do you know what? Actually, I'd have to check it now to be 100%. There's one of the wizard subclasses. I want to say it's. Who is it? It's a conjuration. One of the subclasses for wizard is able to do this themselves, or they can. It's called benign transportation.
Benign transposition. It's what Jim Dark Magic can do. Whatever one Jim Dark Magic is.
It is conjuration.
It's
conjuration.
He always does it in that makes perfect sense actually, that Jim is a conjuration wizard, because he summons birds. The doves. The doves. More doves.
But yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of cool though, because that means that you can, if you took that as a school of conjuration wizard, that means you can do a lot of stuff there with with either moving yourself and your allies, or just your allies, or just your enemies if you take this spell. And because it's a relatively low level spell, you have a lot of use out of it as well. Second level is quite good. So like, you could totally rearrange a battlefield with that, you know. And it's conjuration. It is. Yeah.
Its base is 90.
That's a lot. Like.
Yeah, that's. Like they're
would you see within range? That's insane. Yeah.
I would put that up there with Roltham's Psychic Lance as some of my new favorite spells that have been put in. Just for how they work.
This is a great spell. Yeah, man. So I'm thinking of all the applications of that, like castle walls. You can basically kind of do like the just get your barb to rage up and go, "You ready?" And he's like, "Her," and you're like, "Cool," and you just teleport him on top of the wall, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's so sick. And then we have Wither and Bloom, which is a necromancy spell. This one obviously comes from Witherbloom. So it's the second level, one casting time of an action, and it's got a range of 60 feet and an area of 10 feet. And it requires a Constitution saving throw and VSM as well. So you invoke both Death and Life upon a 10-foot radius sphere centered on a point in range. Each creature of your choice in that area must make a con save, taking 2d6 necrotic damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful. Non-magical vegetation in that area withers. In addition, one creature of your choice in that area can spend and roll one of its unspent hit die and regain a number of hit points equal to the roll plus your spellcasting ability modifier. And when you cast it at higher levels, then the damage increases by 1d6 for each slot above second, and the number of hit dice that can be spent and added to the healing increases by 1 for each slot above second. So this is really interesting in terms of like its implementation and stuff it uses. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it yet.
I mean, okay, so it's a 10-foot radius. That's a decent sized area. I mean, if you're what's good about it is if you have a fighter or a barbarian or something like that who's up in the front lines, they're surrounded by a bunch of hobgoblins or something like that, you can then target them at the center of the area. Say that all the hobgoblins who are currently flanking and encircling them take 2d6 damage, and then they regain health to buff them out because they're being ganged up on. I like that. I don't like that they have to spend their hit dice for it. I feel like they should just regain a number of hit points equal to half what the damage that's done, or to the same amount of points that damage that's done to...
Yeah.
So if you roll 2d6 damage, each of those hobgoblins takes, for example, 8 points of damage, and then one person of your choosing in that same area gets 8 points back. Not the sum of all of them, but I feel like that'd be better.
I feel like a smoother way to do that would maybe have been the one creature in that area heals for half the damage taken by every other creature in that area. Like, you get the total of damage taken by the creatures, you cut it in half, that's what your allied creature heals by.
Oh yeah, well I mean, like that, I feel like that's kind of I don't think they would do. So what you're saying, like, that's for example, there are 4 hobgoblins that each take 8 necrotic damage from the 2d6. That's 32 points of damage. You would get 16 points back.
Yeah, you get 16 back.
Yeah, I feel like there's a if I understand the design philosophy of like 5th edition in the way I do, I feel like that's too many variables with trying to determine how many enemies took damage, because they also make a con save.
Yeah.
And they take half on a different one. So you're talking about going at 8 here, 4 here, 8 here, 4, 4, 8, and then it's too much maths to do. But I think if it's a case of everyone you don't like, or at least everyone bar one person in this area takes, again, 8 points of damage, and then the one person you like or the one person you're trying to heal gets 8 points back. It's a straightforward way to do it, and it's still pretty good.
This is a Goblin Killer, is what this is.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
This is for killing like goblins and kobolds and the other those really small annoying enemies that just gang up on you. They don't have much health, but they
all have pack tactics.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what that's built for dealing with. Exactly.
I do feel like I really don't like the hit dice thing.
Yeah,
because then not only are you the caster burning a spell slot, but you're also forcing someone else in, I don't know, a member of your party to burn a hit dice. Why would they have to? You're already spending a spell slot to do it. Just give them some health as part of the spell.
Yeah, the damage isn't great either. So like, it gets an extra d6 for each spell slot above second. So if you wanted to cast this at 6th level, it would be doing 66 necrotic damage, which is not bad. But like, for the cost of a 3rd level spell slot, I can do 8d6 fire with a fireball.
Yeah. It's not a great spell. It's okay. I could maybe see myself taking it if I'm going for a certain feel.
Yeah.
And it's also, I guess, I don't think we have very many. No, we do. I think we have, like, isn't Enervation like an area of effect necrotic spell?
I think so.
I think so.
And we do, and never mind that, we've taken Circle of Death.
Oh, sorry, it's Circle of Death, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just bringing up Enervation here.
You're right.
Inky Tendrils, creature in life, the target must... Oh, it's a single target for Enervation, never mind. I'm thinking of Circle of Death.
And yeah, now the one we skipped, which is, according to certain people, potentially the new best spell in D&D.
Okay, let me look here.
Silvery Barbs, which comes from Silverquill College. It is a first level spell, costs 1 reaction, it has a range of 60 feet, and it is an enchantment spell, and all you need is verbal components.
Okay.
You magically distract a triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. Oh, sorry, I think it's... Why did it start me in the middle of that? That's weird. Oh, no, yeah. You magically distract a triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. You can then choose a different creature you can see within range. You can choose yourself. The chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes it in a minute. A creature can be empowered only once by use of this spell. So basically what happens is someone succeeds and you go, hey! And then they have to roll again and they have to take a lower roll.
Well, that's kind of...
So this ignores advantage as well. Because this happens when you succeed.
Oh, interesting.
This technically you can make a very... I watched a really good video on this by today as part of research by the Wintry Wyvern on YouTube. Just want to credit who I heard this from. But
yeah,
you can make a very solid case for this working on legendary resistance because of how it's worded. Because it's
magically distract a creature and its turn is momentary certain encouragement for another creature. The trigger creature must reroll d20 on a roll. It says one reaction when you take one reaction which you take when a creature you can see within 60 feet succeeds on an attack roll, ability check, or syndrome. Yeah, because you use a legendary react. Oh my god. Yeah, it's a legendary success or a legendary. What am I trying to say? Help me.
Legendary resistance.
It's a legendary resistance killer.
Yeah, technically.
It's a first level spell.
It happens on a success. So
yeah.
Like even if someone right, so let's say we just take the advantage case and the thing. And by the way, this I'm almost verbatim repeating what Wintry Wyvern said in a really good video. If you're watching this, please go watch his video on it. It's really good, and he goes into like the maths of it and stuff, which I am not going to go into. I am not.
And as we've already established in this episode, Martin can't do maths.
I am not a Quandrix scholar. Right.
No.
But yeah, basically because it does trigger on success, what can happen here is say you have advantage on like we'll go with like the Barb, right? Barb has advantage on a dexterity saving throw for an effect you can see from Feral Instinct. So Barb rolls 2 d20s, rolls like an 18 and an nat 20, right? Perfect, instant success. Silvery Barbs roll again, rolls a 2, you fail.
Yeah, because it's the trigger isn't when they try to make, because normally for anything like this, the trigger would be when someone makes a saving throw, you can grant them disadvantage or something like that. But this says after they've already succeeded, which means they could have that. Oh my god, that works against luck as well.
Yeah,
because you could be like I have advantage on this, and then you roll and they're like, oh, both those are bad, I'll use one of my luck die and I'll roll again. Or you could be a halfling and roll and get a 1 and go, oh, I get to re-roll that again, and you re-roll on a bunch of dice if you do that halfling build where you take the feat for the racial thing and lucky. Yeah. And then you're also a divination wizard and you can just choose extra dice and stuff like that. You have 2 rolls you can implant wherever. But I mean, like, you could do all of that and re-roll dice like 5 or 6 times, and then at the very end you could be like, finally, that's a 19, brilliant, I pass. And then this person could be like, reaction, first level spell, re-roll that one more time and take whichever roll is lower.
And it has to be the lower roll, yeah.
It has to be the lower roll.
Oh, and then you choose a different creature you can see within range. That can be you. And they have advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw.
That's insult to injury.
Oh, and
that's a really good spell.
And they don't have to do that immediately. That's within the next minute as well. That's for the next minute they have that.
And it's not concentration or anything, so you can just hang on to that until you do something next. Yeah.
And you can just choose one creature at a time. So like you can spend around advantage for the whole thing. This is broken.
Who can wizards use
this? You sound like can I use this?
No, what I'm just thinking, like, I'm trying to think of
I need to go back.
a character build with this.
So it's and I'm thinking Bard, Sork, and Wizard can all use this.
So here we go. Right, you go. It's a first level spell. I can't go back to the first level spell. Okay, so
it's a reaction as well, so you don't even have to do it on your turn.
So that
you can
halfling builds we were talking about, right?
The halfling diviner mage.
Where you, so you do halfling diviner wizard. And then you take the halfling racial feat, bountiful luck, I think it is, and then you take the lucky feat. You have 3 rerolls with a lucky feat you can use wherever.
Yeah.
You have 2 dice you roll at the start of at the end of a long rest that you can carry through the day and just implant wherever as part of being a diviner wizard. As a halfling, if you roll a 1, you just re-roll it. You're basically immune. I think you can only do it once though, right? It doesn't. If you roll again.
The halfling? Yeah.
Yeah, if you roll a 1 a second now, but that's still a 1 in 400 chance of that failing you. And then you take this as a first level spell as a wizard. You're basically the guy. You basically control luck.
Yeah.
Because that halfling feat lets you interfere with your allies, or not interfere with, but rather buff your allies. So you can basically be like, oh my God, you're Domino from Deadpool.
yeah, totally. And like, crap, what was I going to say?
You could just manipulate luck as if it were like a tangible thing in the universe. That's actually a really cool character concept.
Yeah, and then like it's even without going into the whole like halfling diviner kind of cheese build. The Wintry Wyvern, he was doing the math.
What do you mean cheese build? I'm playing that in your next campaign.
Okay. He was doing but he did the numbers on it, and it's something like the average roll on a D20 is like 10.5 or something like that. And
10.5 on a D20.
Yeah.
And a D20 it's 10. It's 10.5. It's always it's half of whatever the number is, but you add a 0.5 onto it because you can't roll a 0, so it buffs up the average.
Yeah. So it's the average roll of a D20 is 10.5, and he was like, let's take for example the idea that you have like a 3rd level spellcaster, and by that time their bonus to like checks involving their spellcasting modifier, let's assume a bonus of like +3, and he was like, this is what it is in the normal roll. When you roll disadvantage, this is what it is. Now, if someone rolls disadvantage and then
basically -5 for disadvantage, isn't it?
It's because so the average roll for disadvantage I think was 7.5.
Okay, cool.
And he goes, and so that was the disadvantage roll, and then he did this maths for what if you silvery barbs someone who's already on disadvantage and give them what's known as super disadvantage, because you roll the disadvantage, and then you roll disadvantage, take the lowest number of that, and then silvery barbs happens, and then you roll again, and if you get lower than that low number, you take that one instead. So it's like do all the way. It's like you can, as a first level spell against early level like monsters, you can ruin things with this.
Yeah, the most powerful thing. Like, do you know what? Like, a lot of what this spell does is
you could use this powerful. On the aspect of Tiamat.
Like the thing about this spell is that, like, sorry, I'm just thinking like about like things like your cleric casts banishment on the aspect of Tiamat or something like that, and you cast a 1st level spell to make like, and the aspect of Tiamat goes, oh well, it fails, but it has a legendary resistance, so it automatically succeeds, and but the trigger is a success. So like, it's also like you would never accidentally waste this. Sometimes when you do stuff like that, it might be like, I grant disadvantage to this creature. You're taking the chance that they might still roll high. They've already won, and you're telling them to take 5 steps back and try again.
Where it gets really, really brutal is when you use this in concert with other player abilities. So, like, say that example, right? Say you're like a 20th level party fighting the aspect of Tiamat, and like, I don't know, it tries to do like it tries to, oh, that's it, yeah, it does something like the banishment or something like that, basically, where you like deny a spell it can do or an attack. Yeah, that's it. It's like it tries to bite you, right? You use silvery barbs. The bite misses because of silvery barbs. You've used that as a reaction to stop the bite from hitting you. The next turn coming up after Tiamat is the rogue, and you go sick. You have advantage for a minute. Go nuts.
So take your sneak attack.
Yeah. So not only does Tiamat now not bite my head off, but now after Tiamat's turn, because that was the last thing you could do, the rogue is up and he's going to stab it in the ass for like 84 piercing damage.
Yeah, man. Or I for whatever reason I'm picturing the Soul Knife rogue and just doing psychic damage. Is it psychic damage?
Soul Knife, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So oh man, yeah, that's. So I think I read the spell. I don't think I read the reaction properly. Because I mean, again, everything that's in the actual effect of the spell is like a reasonable thing. Yeah. But that triggers on a success thing is immensely powerful. I'm just thinking like,
Like, is there any other spell in D&D that triggers on a success?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because like anything like this, that gives like disadvantage. It's always prior to the check. The fact that this triggers when you succeed.
Yeah, it's usually crazy. Prior to. Is it prior to, or it's like? I think you can I think there's some stuff maybe you can do it when like
luck is after the number is said, but before you know it's like a hit or a miss.
Exactly. They almost always phrase it that way. That like you can do this after the dice is rolled, but before it is determined whether it's a success or not. Yeah. This is very specifically breaking out of that mold again. Which again, nothing else. I don't think anything else in D&D does this. That's a big deal. That's a big deal and a great spell. And I kind of wanted to think like, can I make a diviner wizard mixed with a monk, and then can I play, what's his name? Chirrut Emwe from Rogue One, the other guy, the blind monk. It's Donnie Yen's character.
Yeah. I haven't seen that.
Where like everything keeps missing me, but that's because I keep giving everything disadvantage.
Yeah. I suppose like we're kind of running out of a little bit of time, so we might not be able to get through. Yeah, we're probably not going to get to some of the stat blocks that we were going to talk about initially, but just to give a shout out, one thing I do really, really, really like about this book, which is hilarious, because it's kind of fitting into me taking a bit of a dim view of the book in general. I really like the bad guys. The mage hunters and the Auric are really, really, really cool. The mage hunters are these like almost like xenomorph, like they're basically like magic stalkers, where they like when they're not activated they pull back into this like diamond sentry pod form, and then like when they're set off to find mages, they like extend out into these like crab spider nightmare creatures, and they can inherently sense someone who can cast magic. They basically pulse and send out a wave, and it's a DC 14 spellcasting modifier check to not reveal your position, which is really cool. I think they're like CR9. They've got like 85 hit points. They're really like I think
these are the mage hunters.
Yeah, the mage hunters.
CR5. Look over here.
Sorry, I'm thinking of the Auric. The CR5.
They're decent though.
Like they're good, like, yeah. Straight up, I'm going to put mage hunters in both this campaign and probably my next campaign, because I think my next campaign I want to do like an anti-magic plus, and these are perfect. Similarly, there's the Auric, who are like blood mage assassins. They're really really cool sounding, and like they're very, very interesting. These are the guys I think that are actually CR9. Is the Auric?
Yeah, they are. I'm looking at them.
They're almost like techno Death Eater is what I want to say. Nearly.
A little bit, yeah.
They're really, really cool looking. There's also kind of something slightly cosmic horror about them as well in terms of how they look. But yeah, we have the Auric Blood Mage, who's like a medium humanoid warlock, 127 hit points, 16 AC, challenge rate 9, and it's got some really, really cool abilities. Like it can increase its AC with blood. It can't be targeted by divination magic or perceived by magical scryers because of their masks, which is insane.
That's right, I remember seeing that, yeah. Oh, there you go. Why the hell isn't an Auric mask one of the magic items you can get in this?
But like they've got some really, really cool stuff. Like they've an attack called Blood Lash, where they like basically like a blood whip and like smack you with it. And then Blood Boil is basically a blood fireball.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it here. Yeah, do you know?
When they fail, it's 70-10 necrotic damage and incapacitated until the end of its next turn.
Yeah, they're really cool. There's a fair few. There's not okay. I will say, as far as the stat blocks go in this, there isn't a lot when you consider the fact that there are 4 stat blocks for each for each school within Strixhaven, and each one is apprentice, pledge mage, professor. Is it 4? Oh, there's 2 professor ones for each thing. Yeah. So they're kind of similar in that sense. It's cool if you're running a campaign where maybe there's a league of evil mages or something, because I could totally use all these stat blocks for like some evil mages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like what's actually here, I think there's actually some nice stuff. Though there's the Auric guys, there's the mage hunters. Cool. There's a couple of like really high level. There's a high level celestial called an Archaic.
Yes.
which are it's mental looking like. There's also a similar high level fiend called a Demagoth. There's what was I was looking at one a second ago. Oh, there's one called a Relic Sloth, and I really like it. He's a size huge mount, and he only has 20 feet speed, but he has this thing called he's basically just like a big old four-legged sloth creature.
He's such an Avatar: The Last Airbender monster, like.
Oh yeah. Oh no, if you look at the picture of him, very much so.
He's like a lanky Avatar, he's a lanky Appa with horns. With tusks, rather.
Basically, yeah. Or like, they're kind of in a desert environment here, so I'm picturing the Banthas in Star Wars on Tatooine. You know, those guys, the Tusken Raiders, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. I think that'd be really cool mount just to drop into literally any campaign, so that people aren't always like, here's a horse or an elephant. It's like, oh no, here's a big weird sloth creature with tusks, but they're really gentle and furry, and they whatever. I think this is cool.
They're just like big dumb pets. I love them.
Do you know what? I get a real kick out of stuff like that when people when they add in not necessarily like the biggest weirdest thing in the world. It's also like this this rabbit in Tomb of Annihilation with a unicorn horn, and it doesn't really do anything special. It's just a cool animal. I like it.
Is that called an Esquilax by any chance?
It might be called. I don't know. I can't remember. I haven't looked over Tomb of Annihilation in a while. Okay. But Martin.
Yes, Connor.
I think that's all the time we have. I didn't start the clock on the time. What do we have?
I think it's about the time. I think that's about all the time we have for today. Okay. Yeah, we're pretty much right bang on our limit here. But yeah, that was an interesting episode of Micflayers. We started out kind of, I think, quite negative, but by the end we were pretty positive about the things that we did like.
I mean, look, I would not say that this book is without value. There's some cool stuff in it, particularly, like we said, if you're a Harry Potter fan, or even just anyone who likes the idea of a mage's college and wants to run it in your home game. Because they do mention in the preamble for the book, they're like, oh, this is designed in such a way that you can drop it into your homebrew, into Eberron, into your Forgotten Realms game. Doesn't matter. You can drop it into any game you're currently playing. It's not tied to any particular world, which is nice, because then you don't have to think about too much. You just go, sure, this place Strixhaven, it's here now.
I'd give the one warning though, particularly we didn't get to it in the episode, but like they have a very, very, very well fleshed out and deep relationship system with 18 personality profiles for NPCs that your players will have to interact with. So if you are going to DM this, it is going to be a lot of work from you. So it would probably need to be a labor of love, which is why I'm saying if you're a Harry Potter fan, you'll probably absolutely adore this.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, I think for me, it is as far. I don't think this is the worst book we've ever gotten. I think Candlekeep for me is still lower. I just don't run pre-written quests or campaigns. I like to be given as much crunch or inspiration as possible, and then let me bring that to my own game. And Candlekeep was that for me. But this is a step above Candlekeep. There is some cool. There's a couple of cool spells. There's a few cool stat blocks. Again, the magic items are disappointing, but look, you can't win them all. But yeah, it's a grand book. It's definitely the weakest, maybe of the three we've gotten now in the past few months, whether it be Fizzbands, Strixhaven, or Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Ooh, yeah, no. If I was to tier them immediately, it'd go Fizzbands, Wild, and Strixhaven for me.
Yeah, same. Which isn't to say it's a terrible book. It's just not the best. Particularly, they almost would have been better off releasing this first and then Fizzbands to end on a higher note for the year.
Oh my god, yeah, Jesus! Releasing this after Fizzbands makes
Fizzbands
this look even worse.
That's a tough act to follow. Martin.
Yes.
Just because I'm concerned about time, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on the internet, mainly here on the Micflayers podcast, but also on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over, which is in the bottom right hand corner of my screen there. You can also find me on the Micflayers podcast Twitter account, which is at MicFlayersPod on Twitter, down in the bottom right hand corner of the general screen. And exit every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time here on the Micflayers podcast. Connor, what about you? Where can people find you?
People can find me on the internet at 0.Connor, ZeroPointConor, 1 N, very important. And as always, every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time here on the Micflayers podcast on YouTube, Spotify. I got it here. YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor Breaker, and Radio Republic.
Nicely done. And that'll be a good bye from both of us, folks. Thanks very much for watching, and we will see you on the next episode of the Micflayers podcast. Bye bye.